Hello, my name is Julie and welcome to my channel. I've been wanting to do this video for a bit. I am going to show you how I learned to knit, which I taught myself, and this was definitely before the days of YouTube, and I had to look off a magazine and stuff. So without further ado, let me show you how I knit. And again, I want to throw the disclaimer, this is how I do it. And not, if you're here trying to learn to knit, I would not recommend this video. I'm going to use this video as a reference for future knit tutorials that I may or may not do. I do have one in mind that I want to do. And I will leave the written instructions for that. So I'm going to show how I first learned how to cast on, which is the standard. It's called the long tail cast on. This is where you, like it says, you need a nice long tail, and the other end goes to the ball. So I would do like a standard slip knot onto your needle. The standard long tail cast on is that you pull the loop from the tail and then use the other tail onto the needle and flip it over. So this is the long tail. This is how I learned to cast on, which I believe is correct. The long tail cast on, which is you took your long tail, you like wrap it around your thumb. I don't have to do this slow. Pull your needle up, take your other needle, other yarn that's attached to the ball end, wrap it around and flip this over. So this is how I do the long tail. I will do it slowly because at least this part, if you're here to learn how to do the long tail cast on, this I believe is the correct way to cast on. But there is probably many other ways to cast on. But this is what, if I want to talk to you about what I knew, this is what I learned. It was the long tail method. Long tail method can get really tricky when you have to cast on a really long amount of stitches. That way I recommend it. If you have more than one ball in the same color, you use 2 balls of yarn for this. Because that many a times where I try to guesstimate how long my tail should be and come up short and have to redo the cast on. So I'm going to cast on a few more. Just a few more. This is strictly show you what I do. So when it comes time to knit, okay, I guess I learned this, I even learned this recently, that you usually hold your ball in your right hand. I worked my ball of yarn in my left hand. Let me know in the comments. I believe one of the standard knitting practices is to have your yarn in your right hand. That is not the case for me. It is in my left hand. And I believe, also let me know that this is a form of continental knitting. So, I know. So, the knit stitch, I learned semi-recently, traditionally, goes through the front. And if I'm going to do the garter stitch, I would do it through the front, like this. And I don't know why I casted my stitches really tight. So if I was doing the garter stitch, you traditionally go through the front. So I would go through the front and then just pick my yarn up through the back. And if I was going to do the garter stitch is all, just so you know, it's all, oh, and look, I've done this many times too. Look what I did. I started to knit with the tail. All right, I will get back with you on that one and I will fix this. Okay, I have casted on new stitches and now my tail's out of the way. Come on. I know you've done this. I can't be the only one who started to knit or crochet with the tail and not the actual working yarn. So, to leave off where I was, traditional knitting goes through the front, like I showed before. But for the longest time, that is not what I did. Okay, for the longest time, I would knit what was known as the back loop. So this is the back loop. If you see knitting instructions that says knit through the back loop, they mean by knitting back through this loop. And for years, this is what I did. I would knit through the back loop. So I had knit my first row through the back loops. So now return. Now the purl stitch. I know traditionally what is how you do it normally is that you go through the front and then you kind of have to go over. You go over that and then run it through. But this is not how. I guess this is what's. But that's not how I do the purl stitch. I'd go how I do with my purl stitches. I go through like normal and I pick it up from underneath. So how I do it is that I would pick it up, instead of going over, I would go under. And to me right now, if I want to knit quickly, that's how I do my purl stitch. I know, not traditionally how the purl stitch is done. This is how I do it. And this is how I did do it for years. Go back and turn now, because that is how I did my purl stitch. I have to knit through the back loop, because if I did it through the front like it's traditionally, the stitch is going to twist. Plus, if you look, that it lays, it kind of, I want to say how it lays or how it naturally flows. So pretty much I have to knit through the back loop to keep it from twisting. And to do the stockinette, the quishtkas, this is how I do it now. And I don't know if I can unlearn this, because I've been doing this for years. And I didn't know that it was different until YouTube came around. And at this point I was kind of like, you know, can't teach an old dog new tricks. This is how I knit. Not true. If you wanna try to have that nice edge, you could slip. You just slip the stitch in the way that it's going. You know how it's going. Like we're going more on the purl row, so I would slip it purl wise. But yeah, to me the fastest is to go up from underneath. I guess that's the big deal, and that's how I knit. But you know, it still looks like that. Looks like your stockinette stitch. When I came across knit in the back loop in some instructions, and I didn't know what that was. And then when I had come across the video and looked at it, and I'm like, that's how I normally knit. And then I had to find a video on how to knit, and then that's when I learned that that the needle goes through the front and not the back. That is all I have in this video. And if you want to see more content like this and potentially more future knitting content, please subscribe to my channel. And I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.